Whatever it is right now. So this is our annual, our annual press conference, pre-draft. So have at it. Let's go.
Unless you're gonna tell us who you're gonna draft, Mickey.
I do every year, don't I?
Let me ask you, talk about, because you got some uncertainty with rankings and on your mind and stuff. The first, and they did no favors with the schedule. I mean, that's, your first 4 weeks. Is gonna be tough.
Yeah, look, I kind of like the schedule, I'll be honest with you. I mean, our opponents are predetermined, so it's just a matter of when we play them. And look, we got our bye right in the middle of the season. I like that. Those first 4 weeks are tough opponents, but we're going to have to play them anyway during the course of the year. So it's not like you can avoid, playing teams that you perceive as being pretty good. I think in the first half we're playing 5 of our 8, I think, are playoff teams from a year ago. That's just the way it goes. Look, we're looking forward to it. We're looking forward to playing the guys on the schedule that we have, and we've got, what do we have, 5, I think, national games, 4 prime time, 3 of those at home. I like that too. So I think we like our schedule.
Mickey, given that free agency always leads into the draft, obviously, do you feel like free agency allowed you to put yourselves in a position to pick the best available?
I think for the most part, yes. That's always our goal, is to, we have a list of items that we want to get accomplished in the off season, and I think for the most part we did that. We'll go into this draft, and it's a little different when you don't have that first round pick. We're picking at 62, so it's a lot tougher to predict who's going to be available to you. But I like the position we're in.
Back to the schedule real quick. You guys have lost the week 1 5 years in a row. I mean, what, if anything,
I didn't realize that till you reminded me.
I would apologize. What, if anything, can you do this offseason to ensure that you start fast?
Well, look, I think, we're always focused on starting fast, and we've had some teams that have played good games against us as much as anything. So, we got a home game against a really tough opponent, Monday Night Football, and we've had success in those primetime games. So hopefully we'll have success this year.
You've used future picks to make deals several times in the draft.
Mm-hmm.
What's the challenge in presenting that to a team? Because obviously it doesn't necessarily help them right away. And, just the challenge of maybe trying to use that to possibly move up in the draft.
Well, look, I think, you're always, when you're trying to move up, you're making a lot of calls, looking for a trade partner that views accumulating picks more valuable than making their pick that year. And so it's just a matter of making a lot of calls and relying on relationships that you have. And, we've been able to find trade partners on occasion, but there's been times when we haven't been able to as well.
How much of that is done in these few days leading up to the draft to find maybe people who might be, or is all of that done sort of on the fly as you go? Because I'm imagining by the time you hit the 3rd round and you got 5 minutes, it gets a little tough to squeeze that in, right?
Yeah, I think that for the most part, we do a lot of preliminary work, in the days leading up to the draft, talking to teams and who's interested in moving. And look, again, day one's the first round, so the days leading up to that, you're really primarily talking about first round, movement. And then after the first round, the next day, you're talking about that day's rounds. So a lot of it is done preliminary, but man, when you get on a clock, a lot of it's done then too. So it's both. At the end of the day, it's both.
How many times would you say maybe of the times that you've tried to move up, how many times, or as much as you try, are you just not? I'm guessing sometimes you're just not able to pull it off, even when you really want to.
Yeah.
How does that sort of play out? Are you most of the time able to do it when you want to move up, or
Yeah,
is it 50-50?
it's less than 50%. It's been less than 50%. Because look, you may have a trade partner, and yet you don't see the value as eye to eye. So I'd say it's less than 50%. I don't know that I could put a number on it, but it's probably not far from 50%, but it's less than 50%.
Is that genuinely guided by?
Look, that's just my experience and our experience. It's not, I wouldn't say it's league-wide.
Is that generally guided by a guy, like Kamara's out there and he shouldn't be out there,
Yeah.
let's go get him? I mean, it's always,
Yeah, I think it's always guided by a targeted player. Yeah, it is for us.
If you look at this draft in particular, is 62 kind of line up to where you guys are confident you'll find somebody you like there? Like, is there kind of like this big range of prospects you feel?
I think our view is it's a fairly deep draft, and we're pretty confident that we're going to get a good player at 62. Yes.
Given that you have been aggressive with your history here and moving up, is it going to be restless on Thursday night?
Probably.
I just didn't know, just, do you prepare
Yeah.
differently to kind of wrap your head around it mentally in a different way, knowing that the potential is the night will come and go and there'll be no new players?
Yeah, potentially. We'll see when we get there, but it's pretty hard to go from 62 into the first round, but we'll see what happens.
Do you expect to move up even into the second round, in the middle of the top? You'd
Yeah.
probably have to go into next year.
I don't know yet. We'll see because look, you can trade picks and you can trade players too. I mean, there's all kinds of avenues, not all kinds. There's a few avenues to make movement. But again, that we're going to have to see somebody that we've got a target on and that we feel like we have to move in order to even contemplate that. But look, the honest truth is we've got less ammunition, less things to trade this year than we've had in the past. So that makes it a lot more difficult.
Mickey, where do you see the strengths?
Yeah, I think, I was just visiting with Jeff this morning about that. We were talking about our views on it, and I think that, there's some pass rushers in this draft, probably more than what we ordinarily experience. I think the tight end group is pretty deep. Quarterbacks, I think, is a deep group. So I think those three, but, there's other positions. You can find wide receivers, I think, in this class as well. So, I think in general, we feel like it's a pretty deep draft.
There's a notion that you guys don't like to trade back in rounds. Is that accurate? You guys have always traded up?
Well, I think the notion comes from history, right? So, yeah, I wouldn't say that we don't have yeah, I mean, we'd be open to trading back to get, if the timing's right and if the value's right, but it just hasn't happened very often.
I mean, how would you evaluate last year in Davenport and his productivity last season?
Yeah, look, I think that he's made progress, and he had a couple health things that slowed him down a little bit, but we like Marcus, and we're looking for big things from him.
Speaking of Jeff, you guys are going into the fifth draft with him. Is that one of the reasons why you guys have been able to have that sustainable success?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jeff does a great job. I think he and his staff, our college scouting staff, have done a fantastic job for us over the years, and so, he's certainly a big part of that.
But if y'all have fewer picks than normal, like this year, do you tend to be more aggressive with trade talks to see if there's a way to pick up more picks so you can get more out of this draft?
I wouldn't say it's been more aggressive. I think, part of that is, look, we've got some preliminary work that we do, looking to see, who's seeking trades, and then, but it gets right back to on draft day. Then all of a sudden, you've got a target, and or somebody else has a target, and they're making calls. But when you have less picks, you're going to get fewer calls.
What do you expect Thursday to be like, without having a pick?
I don't know. Listen, we'll be watching, I guess. But look, we'll be on the phones. We'll be working the draft and managing the process.
Not that you can't name names, but normally, do y'all get many calls, and did you get any calls this year on veteran players on your roster that people would like to maybe work a deal with for draft?
Yeah, I think I'd rather not comment on that. Every year you get some calls, yeah. So I wouldn't say there's nothing out of the ordinary.
Are you and Sean well oiled together, or like once the clock is going, is it chaotic with you two?
No, it's not chaotic. Most of the decision making and all that's done by the time we get to the draft. then it's just a matter of, hey, how does it fall? We've been on the same page for 13 years now, 14 years, whatever it is, so it'll work smoothly.
Would you say that it's sort of your philosophy that you guys like trading up because you've done it a bunch, or would you just say that's how it's worked out in every individual case? Like, is that something you go in saying this is what we do, or does it just seem to work out that way?
Well, it's a combination of both of those things. You know, look, every year I say that we're open to trading back and trading forward, and every year we trade forward, right? So obviously that's been our history, and that comes from, man, finding a player that we really like and we target, that we believe can help our team, a player that we have a vision for, and going and getting them.
Does back in last year's draft class, you had a number of guys not make the club. Is that just the depth of the teams you had, and how difficult is that?
Yeah.
You're trying to slide like a lot of these late round picks in.
Yeah, I think, look, when you have, a good roster and you've had success, it is harder for young players to make your team, and yet, there were some players that we really liked a year ago, and look, we were hoping to get them to the practice squad and then have them become contributing members to our team, and somebody else claimed them, so that's just the nature of, the nature of the system, so. But it is harder for young players to make, a team when you have a good roster.
Do you think this year will be even harder than?
I don't know that yet. Look, we go by what we see, once they get here, so.
Does that experience from last year alter the approach at all? Maybe in the later rounds you'd be looking for something a little different than you did last year?
No, I don't think so, Look, I think, when you have your players claimed, it affirms that you made good picks, so.
You look at somebody who farm walks, can you overassess? Is there a time it's overkill when you look at prospects as too much?
Well, I don't look at it that way. Look, I think all information is good. And we're collecting information right up to the moment we pick. And so, yeah, I hear that a lot, overanalyze, but look, I'm of the ilk that you can't analyze enough. You got to collect all the information you can get and make your best decision. And, I think we do a good job of that. I think our scouts and our coaches do a great job of that, actually.
With what y'all did in free agency, does that make it easier for you guys to just target the best player available and not have to kind of wait for a certain...
Yeah, I think that's always the goal in the offseason, is to fill as many holes as possible so that you can put yourself in a position to take, just to follow your board. But I've said this in the past, that part of that is when you pick, you're going to have more than one player that are graded in the same area. And, when you do that, obviously you're going to look at the position between those players. But certainly that's the goal, is to be able to pick the best player available to you.
Was the approach the same despite not having the first round pick, the pre-draft process leading up to your grades?
Yeah, the process was exactly the same. I think maybe when we finally got to the meetings, we probably spent a little less time talking about those guys in the very top of the draft, but the process is exactly the same. Our guys evaluated every player. We talked about every player that's draftable for us, and that hasn't changed.
But in terms of the resources you spend, like going out, working players out or bringing them in for visits,
That didn't change.
You still work?
Yeah,
Just
that didn't
first
change.
round guys as late round guys?
Yeah, we went through the same process.
Mickey, how much does that help you guys down the road, 4 or 5 years from now, for free agency, if you want to make a decision on it?
Yeah, absolutely it does. When players become free agents, or they get placed on the waiver wire, look, we go right to those, all the reports that we have in our system.
If you don't know, say if you're trying to call to make a trade, or someone, the GM's calling you to make a trade, and you don't know that person that well, how much does that change the dynamic? You don't know how they work, you know how they think, you haven't done deals with them before, you might not know them very well, person.
Yeah, it probably changes a little bit. Just, I don't know that it changes a lot. You're still looking at, hey, what's the trade value? Does it help your team? What are you giving up? So you're looking at it the same, but the length of the conversation may change a little bit. But Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that I really know the answer.
Someone you don't know is gonna try to like
Yeah.
pull a fast one or something.
Nah, I don't look at it like that. Look, I have a lot of respect for the general managers and the personnel people in our league, and they're all good people, and I think it's hard to pull a fast one over anyone.
When you're in those negotiations, and it's super fast and you're calling about trading up, is there sort of a standard where everybody knows that X pick is gonna cost Y and Z? Or do you get wide variance from some teams in what they expect for a particular pick? Like, is there a standard, or is it all over the board?
Well, we have these trade value charts, these point charts. We all, pretty much use the same charts. And look, we all know what the history of, trading up 8 picks, in the first round is, in the middle of the round. So we have enough history, and we have these trade value charts that I think very, very seldom is there a huge discrepancy in what is expected versus what is offered. But look, once you make that offer, there's tweaks back and forth. But I wouldn't say that there's a huge discrepancy generally.
Well, when you're trying to move up, that's generally not the sticking point. Like, everybody sort of knows the value at that point.
Yeah, well, it's always a negotiation, because you're trying to get more than the value, but I wouldn't say that there's a lot of outrageous requests or anything like that, if that's what you're implying.
What do you think the draft would be like, or how much more difficult if it was much earlier, like in March or February?
I don't think that it'd be a lot more difficult myself. I haven't thought a lot about it because it's always been around this time of year, so I haven't thought a lot about it. There's always a debate about whether is it better before or after free agency, and I think that is probably just dependent upon who you're asking.
A lot of, I think, news was made last week, not that I want you to talk about another franchise, but with Oakland and sending scouts home and things like that. When you have strong personalities, people that have spent their lives scouting, is part of it managing people's opinions from your perspective and knowing which voices to listen to and who to push back on and things like that?
No, look, I wouldn't say it that way. We value the opinions of our scouts and our coaches and anyone who has been part of the evaluation process, and I like having them available, at and during the draft, because some of these guys have more firsthand experience than the rest of us. So I like strong opinions. I think Sean would say the same thing. We want strong opinions, and otherwise, if we don't have strong opinions and dissenting opinions, then what's the point of having all the opinions, right? So.
Is there anything left to be done in free agency?
Yeah, I think, there's still some players out there that can help us, and we're going to continue to look at that. There'll be some guys, typically, after the draft, there's a few guys that become available. So we're going to look at that all the way up and through the season.
How much does that factor into when it's time to select a player and you say, well, we got this other guy that we could probably go after?
Yeah, I don't think it comes into play very often. Just because, look, when they're free agents, they have other options. So I wouldn't say that comes into play very often.
What's the situation pre-draft process? You have your board up, and then coaches get involved. They maybe have a strong opinion from your point of view of just trying to mesh all that together.
Yeah, well, look, that's what we've had meetings with our coaches and in our scouts in one room, and so that process has already taken place. We value our coaches' opinions on these players. They're the guys that are going to have to coach them, and they have a vision for how they can be used. In our defensive and offensive and special team system. So we value their opinion. That they're part of the process. And
the connection with, say, a head coach in college, and that you trust. Yeah. And because some of them will tell you great things about no matter who it is. Yeah. And some of them will give you a real strong opinion. Yeah, look, that's the advantage of having a lot of coaches and scouts involved in the process, is that they all have relationships and different relationships with different coaches that they've worked with or been around, and have built relationships over the years. So
you know, there's a lot of valuable information that we get through those relationships.
What do you think of maybe some must positions for you? I know that's the term you guys like to use.
Must positions. Yeah, I don't know that I want to disclose that right now before the draft. It was a good try, though.
I know
Gosh.
defensively with the draft, you guys are like really strong on the defense side, but like, is receiver one of the positions you guys are willing to trade up for? Are you guys still in the free agency with Des Bryant perhaps? Or?
Yeah, I don't think I want to comment on that either. Look, I like our group of receivers that we have. You know, we've got, you know, a good combination of veteran guys. And Mike Thomas, who I consider a veteran now, who's, you know, one of the better receivers in our league, and Ted Ginn. And we've got some young guys that we like their development, Traquan and Keith Kirkwood and Austin Carr. So, but we're always looking to improve, always looking to get better. And you know, we'll see what happens over the course of this week and in the coming weeks.
You mentioned Mike Thomas. He's going to the final year of his deal. Any kind of talks there?
Yeah.
There?
Yeah, I'm not going to discuss that. Larry, good try, though.
Is it important?
Ben Watson making, you know, implying he may come back. That's
Yeah.
not true.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But look, Ben's been a real good player for a lot of years. He's a great guy, you know, for any team, for our team in the locker room. And yeah, I was a little surprised at that. Yes.
Do you think there could be a fit here for him?
You know, we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
And with Thomas, is it important for you or for his camp to get that done before the season
Who?
with Mike Thomas?
Yeah, I'm not going to comment on the state of any of that contract work.
Mickey, when all the area scouts accumulate all this information, how does that work? Do they give it to like Terry Fontenot, and then he evaluates the final thing, puts everything together, and, you know, Fontenot kind of accumulates all this together?
Well, the area scouts, you know, work for Jeff directly. College area scouts work for Jeff and directly, and they, you know, they put together reports. We have, you know, meetings. We have a lot of discussion. They present the players. Typically, we're going to have 3 or 4 opinions on every player in this draft, and so everyone's going to get to express those. And we talk about, you know, differences that we have, and we try to resolve those differences. You know, the same thing happens with pro players on the pro player side. That's Terry's purview there. So he's got, you know, a pro scouting staff that does the same thing for players that are going to be free agents and players in our league.
So is Terry more involved with the pro than the
Yeah, Terry's a pro personnel director.
last couple of years? He was pretty much involved in college players.
Well, we do have our, you know, for us, our pro staff does do some cross-check work on college players. We take advantage of their skill set, but Terry's a pro personnel director.
I know you said the process has been the same, but just with the fact that the majority of your picks are in those last 3 rounds,
Mm-hmm.
do you put any maybe extra attention into like players that you'd expect to find there in this draft, just knowing that that's kind of where you're working with?
Well, look, clearly, you know, we have to pay attention to that, but we've had picks in the, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th round every year. So, you know, I wouldn't say it's a lot different. You know, we're studying every player, every draftable player that's available this year. And, you know, hopefully we'll get some guys that, I know we'll get some guys that can help us.
Should we show up on Thursday?
Yeah, you should show up. Yes, absolutely. We'll be here. Good.
Topic, just your thoughts on the Pelicans front office.
Yeah, that's for a different time, I think.
How do you plan to handle the 5th-year options with Rankins and Adams?
We'll let you guys know when we make those decisions.
How tough is it, though, with Rankins, you know, just because of his injury?
Yeah, again, I'd rather not comment on that right now, Josh. Thank you, though.
Is there anything you can say about his progress?
I think we're pleased with his progress. Yeah, I think that's what we would say.
Patrick Robinson on that note, too. Has he been recovering?
Yeah, I'd rather not discuss, you know, the medical condition of these guys for the most part. You guys will get a good look at them when we get to the OTAs. Okay? Thank you.